Welcome back to Serving Challenge. When I was in middle school, I loved basketball, but there was a major problem for me. I went to a middle school with several hundred kids in my grade, and I was the third tiniest boy. So my height was already bringing me to a disadvantage. So if my height was going to be a disadvantage, I was determined to make up for it in other areas. Going into tryouts that year, I wanted to come in on fire, in shape, guns blazing, ready to go, to impress the coaches and ultimately to make the basketball team. So the season right before basketball was cross country. And I'm not a cross country runner. I'm not really a runner at all. I've never liked running. I'll do it today from time to time, but the people that actually like running, can we just admit they're weird? But I wanted to do it to get in good shape for basketball. So I signed up for cross country. And again, not the best. I would usually finish in like the back third of the pack. Nothing to write home about, but it was a means to an end. Even in the practices, I didn't really try hard. I kind of goofed off. But then once the first meet came and I struggled, well, something came into me where all of a sudden in the middle of the season, I wanted to win. And those that know me well have diagnosed me with this word called competitive. So we were coming up on the last race of the year. It was against our rival middle school on the very land that I'm filming this video. And the night before the race, I kid you not, I had a dream and I felt like God gave me a very clear vision for how to run the race. And here was the vision. To win the race, all you need to do is run faster than everyone else. Just run faster. And I thought, that's easy. Why hasn't anyone thought of this idea before? Runners just must not be very smart. And so I didn't tell anyone my strategy because I didn't want anyone knowing my secret. I didn't even tell my coach. So that day, the strategy was simple. Run as fast out of the gate as possible and get out in front of everybody else. Then, when you see runners coming behind you, I would just run faster and stay in front and don't let them pass. That was the vision. Run as hard as I can and hold everybody off. So the gun goes off and I'm blazing out of the gate. I am sprinting and everybody else is jogging. I get this really wide lead on the rest of the pack and I can't see anyone behind me. I even hear some in the crowd muttering, "Who's this new kid? Where did he come from?" And I'm a mile into this 5K and just completely dominating. Nobody's close. Then, about 2 minutes later, it started getting really hard for me. The other runners all of a sudden started gaining on me, but I kept running. And then about another 2 minutes, halfway done with the 5K, they were quickly approaching me. No worries though, right? This is when my strategy, my vision, my dream would come into reality. I just have to run faster. But something happened at that moment. My legs and my breathing couldn't match the great vision that God had given to me. You probably know what's going to happen next, right? Well, it turns out this vision wasn't really from God, because I couldn't hold these runners off any longer. They began to pass me. So no joke, mile 1, I was in first place, but by mile 2, I'm literally dead last, and now I have a new goal. Do you know what it is? Don't finish last. So as my silly running story illustrates, it's extremely important how you start something. Sometimes when it comes to serving, which is primarily seen as this outer work, we can think we'll just do better, or we'll try harder, or we'll grit it out, just become a better servant. But I don't believe that's an appropriate attitude that will serve us long term. Maybe you can start something with that attitude, but you won't have the stamina and strength to keep going. So if any of us are having a problem serving on the outside, likely something is wrong on the inside. Before the Apostle Paul jumps to how Jesus served us or what he did to serve us, he reminds us that serving starts with the mindset. Other translations say the attitude of Jesus. Check it out from Philippians 2 verse 5. Paul says, "In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus." And so how's your mindset? How's your attitude? If we're honest, more so today than previous decades or generations, we are struggling on the inside right now. Our collective mental health has been shattered, and while there's some debate in the medical field, many experts believe that much of our mental health stems from functions in the brain. And if you look at what is happening in your brain right now, it's quite fascinating. There's a lot going on. In fact, according to the National Science Foundation, the average person has between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts every single day. Of those thoughts, check out these numbers. Studies have found this, that 80%, 4 out of 5 are negative thoughts. This one's shocking, 12%. So 1 out of every 8 thoughts we have are comparative. And when you combine all your thoughts, 95% of them are repetitive thoughts, which means that for the majority of us, we are just repeating the same negative and comparative thoughts in our head over and over and over again. The more you look into new research like this, it's easy to see why things like mental health, anxiety, and worry are all issues in today's world. And if that were the end of the story, it'd be depressing, but it's not the end. Not only can you change your mind, but you can change your life. And no, that's not some Oprah New Age type of thinking. It's actually quite biblical. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And so how do we renew our mind? How do we change our attitude to ensure that as we serve, our serving is coming from the right place? If our goal is to have a mindset or an attitude like Jesus, let's explore his attitude. What was his attitude? What's his primary attitude or mindset towards you? I wonder what you think God thinks of you. I've heard many people ask a question posed like this before. How can God be both loving and just at the same time? Or how can he possess both love and wrath? It's a huge question, and to be fair, the anger of God, oftentimes shown through his justice, is a tricky subject. There are many biblical references to God's anger. We even have stories of even Jesus being angry and turning tables over and spewing out curses at times. And so how do we deal with this? Because we can see or read about God's anger, I think there are too many people out there that have this incomplete or misinformed idea then that God is predominantly angry with them. So while his anger is real, I think though we have to look at what's behind that anger. And the more you look at it, you see that even his anger is fueled by love. Anger isn't his predominant mindset, it's love. Look at this verse, first shared in Exodus. The Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. Did you hear that? God is slow to anger, but he abounds in love. His anger is not quick-tempered, and it's not without merit. In fact, when you look at the anger of God, even and especially in the life of Jesus, it is always squarely centered against one thing: sin, disobedience. And for God to truly be loving, he kind of has to hate sin and fight against it, right? But his predominant attitude and mindset towards you and me is not anger, it's love, and it's shown in Jesus. When we look to God, specifically shown in and through the person of Jesus, we see that it's far more common that Jesus is not mad, but madly in love with you. And he'll do whatever it takes to right the wrongs in this world, even at great personal cost to him. He willingly, time after time, lowers himself to serve you and I. At one point, Jesus even reminded us that nobody's forcing me to do this. I'm doing it and giving my life on my own accord because he loves you. It's that plain and simple. A lot of Christians can quote John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him would not perish but have everlasting life." Now, the reason this verse sticks with us is because ultimately it speaks about a God who loves his world. And you're included in that world. Human beings are the apple of his eye, his prized possession. Out of all creation, God only stopped and declared very good once. And that was after creating mankind. You are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and he loves you. Do you believe this? See, when humankind collectively had so far failed our God, he was not content to let humanity destroy itself. And so what did he do? He sent Jesus into this world to come and rescue us. His anger didn't win the day, his love did. Jesus didn't even wait for us to clean up our lives or get our act together. He came while we were a mess. Romans 5:8 says it this way: God demonstrated his love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. When he died on the cross, not only did he willingly do it, but the author of Hebrews said as he was enduring this brutal death, did it with joy, with the joy set before him. And what was that joy? that one day you, me, and all who believe in him, along with all of his creation, would be rightly restored to him. He didn't serve us because he had to or because he was forced to. He served us because he loves us. And it's his love that we receive that now is the motivation that keeps us going all the way to the end. Speaking of the end, I know you want to know how my story ends. And so I had a new goal, right? Don't finish last. My pride was at stake here. But I had some work to do because it turns out when you sprint the first mile, you don't have much energy left for the final two. So I noticed one kid looking like he was really struggling, and with less than a quarter mile to go, I got him in my crosshairs. I'm not going to let him beat me. I got the will to win. I run as fast as I can. And sure enough, I end up passing him just at the end, and I finished second to last. Aren't you proud of me? It turns out I later learned the reason the kid was struggling so much is because he was in the middle of having an asthma attack. So I beat a kid that had an asthma attack. Well done, Zach. And then, to add further insult to injury, I actually missed basketball tryouts the month after, no joke, because I cut the tip of my finger off with the scissors trying to earn extra credit in a geometry project. Middle school years, just such interesting years, right? So as ridiculous as my running strategy was that day, I learned a lesson in that race I'll never forget. Our strength can only take us so far. We have to be fueled by something other than our strength. And so on this journey where we're going to serve like Jesus, where does your strength come from? What is your fuel? Before we're going to get to the how and the what of serving, why are you even serving in the first place? If it's to check enough boxes to earn God's favor, you're going to burn out and realize you can never do this impossible task. If it's because you feel obligated to serve, you're going to end up exhausted. If, however, it's because you are so grateful that God would come down into your mess and lower himself to death by crucifixion, that when he raised himself up to new life, you were raised to new life as well, then you're going to have enough fuel to serve all the days of your life. Because we serve because we were first served. We love because we were first loved.